Welcome back to MOVIEidol. So in this video, I want to discuss episode 4 of Game of Thrones season 8. A lot of stuff happened in tonight's episode, and I mean a lot of stuff. Like, a lot more was crammed into this episode than I was expecting. Overall, I am very happy with what we got in tonight's episode because now we can actually focus on the very big final event of episode 5 and 6. Though I do have issues with two things, I'll explain that, but I'm also going to get into what I really liked about tonight's episode. So before I jump in, I do have to warn you obviously for spoilers for episode 4 titled The Last of the Starks. At least I believe so anyways. I saw it on Twitter, so I'm guessing that's likely the title. So the episode begins with the burning of the bodies. They're burning Theon, Jorah. Jon Snow's speech here in the very beginning, he really did sound like a king. And I do think that was the setup for the rest of the episode because throughout all the reveals and the narrative that was set up throughout the entire episode, I think that was the common theme is that Jon should be king. Like, yeah, we have some of the Dany and Cersei stuff going on with some really great stuff at the end, but this underlying theme is like, no, Jon, he should be king. He is the rightful king. He's well-tempered. Everyone likes him. And like Varys said, he is a war hero. But before we talk about that, though, I do want to talk about the smaller things that happened in tonight's episode. For one, I mean, Gendry is now a Baratheon. I think I was saying that in my episode 2 or 3 video, but I really wanted this to happen. And I figured it was going to. That was the most logical way to do Gendry's story, I think. And I do think George R. R. Martin is likely going to do the same thing in his books. I mean, it's just amazing. Like, we have a Baratheon again. Gendry Baratheon, Lord of Storm's End. I love that. Which we also got another surprising twist. And this, for some reason, I wasn't expecting, but it makes perfect sense. And that is Arya and Gendry, I guess, just broke up because, like Arya said, she doesn't want to be Lady of Winterfell or Lady of Storm's End or a Lady of anything. She doesn't want to be that. And so those two broke up, which was a little bit of a shocker, I guess. I mean, there's a chance that they could end up together at the very end, maybe after this big battle at King's Landing, Arya and Gendry get together and they're like, you know what? No, I want to be with you. But then again, I mean, Arya does care more about herself. I see Tyrion and Sansa, if Tyrion could survive, I see Tyrion and Sansa being together because I think Sansa is okay with being a lady of Winterfell or a lady of a community, right? Obviously, likely Winterfell. Arya is not. That's not for her. And I think if she ended up being that, it would go against everything her character has built up to, right? Like she said way back in season 1, she's not a princess. Tonight's episode really focused a lot on Daenerys, and she realized very, very early on that, you know what? I am all alone. Everybody likes Jon, and we saw it during the celebration scene, which first of all, I absolutely loved. But Dany was like, I'm sitting here all alone with Varys, and who wants to talk to Varys? No, I'm just kidding. Everyone loves Varys, but she was all alone. You know, Jon was having a bunch of fun with Tormund, and you had Jaime, Tyrion, and Brienne talking. Like, everybody was having a good time. Everybody got along. Dany, to these people, is just like this foreigner, right? She came from Essos. She has nobody around. And that's what this episode really explored a lot, is the fact that Dany, she's not like Jon. Like, there is no difference between her and all the other past rulers of the Seven Kingdoms because they all just want power. They all just want the throne, and they're really just all unhappy. Whereas with Jon, like, he's friends with everyone. He doesn't want the throne. He wants to just hang out with all these people, have a few drinks, and I think that bugged Dany a lot in this scene, which also built up to a scene later on, which was pretty intense. Daenerys tells Jon, don't tell anyone about your parentage. Do not tell a soul, and everything can be fine. At first, I thought she was like kidding around, or maybe she was saying it to be like, you have to do this, but I know you're not going to. You know, she was just being a little more dramatic about it because she knew he wasn't going to in the end, but she was saying it because that's just how she really feels. But no, she was demanding it. She was like, no, I don't want you to tell anybody, which was the first point in a very long time where I was like, wow, I don't think she's going to be on the throne. Like, at this point now, I don't see Dany on a throne. I know Cersei's not going to be on the throne, but I don't see Dany on the throne at the very end because we have two mad queens now, and we really saw that in tonight's episode. There's no way this story is going to end with how power hungry she is and just have a happy ending like that with her on the throne. There's no way they're going to do that. And I think tonight was just like the final or last proof that I needed. Like, now I know Daenerys is not going to be on that throne because we know what Sansa's doing now. Now that Sansa found out about, you know, who Jon is, she wants him on the throne. And so we know Sansa's going to be planning all of that out right now. And I do want to get into that. I hated two things about tonight's episode. Everything overall was really great. The first thing is, I mean, first of all, the story was so rushed, it was ridiculous. Now, I don't really have an issue with that too much because of what we got in tonight's episode, because of how, like, it was so packed, but that final scene, the celebration scene, all the stuff that in between, I really did like it all. And I'm happy with what they put in here. Like, throughout the episode, I was making notes on my phone and I kept saying, like, this is being way too rushed. This is too rushed here. It's too rushed here. What the hell was that? Like, how did this, like, 2-3 weeks pass within like 5 minutes? Like, what the hell just happened? But then we got that final scene and it was like, holy crap. So I don't really have an issue with the pacing too much just for this episode specifically, but I do still have an issue with how much they're pacing it overall with this series right now. Everything is just happening way too fast. Like, first we're in Winterfell, and then all of a sudden we're getting attacked by the Iron Fleet, and then we're in Dragonstone, and all of a sudden we're in King's Landing, and I'm just like, I don't understand what's happening with all of that. I mean, I do understand what's happening, it's just like, that's just way too fast. There was likely a lot more they could have put in there. Like, if they would have stretched this season up to 10 episodes, I don't mind waiting 2 episodes worth, or 2 or 3 episodes worth to get what we got in tonight's episode. Just, I really like the downtime with our characters. And I might be alone on this, and that's totally fine, but I don't mind the filler scenes. Everyone always complained about how Game of Thrones was so boring in the earlier seasons, but I always liked that. I always like sort of the downtime with our characters, and maybe something never happened for an entire episode. Maybe a little thing happened at the very end, but now we're just getting all these big moments dropping like craziness because the showrunners, I think anyways, are trying to rush this shit out because we're like, whoa, we're at the end now. We're going to give you all this information, which leads me to my second point that I didn't like about tonight's episode, which is the off-screen reveals. Again, the pacing issue overall with how much we got in tonight's episode, I don't really mind it too much. The series has been suffering from a pacing issue for the last 2 or 3 seasons, and I think that's just going to be a complaint from a lot of people. I don't think that's changing anytime soon. I think the series is going to end with this amount of pacing, but I also should note I am okay with the pacing just because of we got all of what we got out of the way now in episode 5, which I should say I will be doing a trailer breakdown right after this. They can actually get into the war and stuff and then get to the final fight for that throne. But the off-screen reveals, it's so bad. I have been waiting years and years. I mean, since really at like season 2, 3, 4. I know it wasn't confirmed who Jon was back then, but I mean, we all theorized about R plus L equals J. And with that theory, I always wondered, like, how would Tyrion or Sansa or Arya, how would they all react to who Jon is? And that was one of the last like things that I would have really liked to get in this final season, and then they just give it to us off screen. Like, seriously, my theory is that they didn't know how to write that moment, and so they just like cut that out, because why would you get rid of a scene like that? I just don't understand. I wanted Sansa and Arya to like question Jon, saying like, no, you're my brother, like, how did that end? Is Sansa like, okay, then you're not part of my family anymore? Is Arya like that? I doubt it. They're probably all like, no, we're still family. But this episode is apparently titled The Last of the Starks, but we didn't get that big moment. Again, I've been waiting for this moment for years. I've been waiting for everyone to find out about who Jon is, and it seems like no one really cares. I mean, people do care. Obviously, Sansa's like, she wants Jon on the throne now. She's going to be eyeing that. But I'm just insanely disappointed that we didn't actually get to see that on screen, especially Tyrion. I was like, the first time I was like, wow, really off screen? And then we cut to Sansa and she's like, oh, Tyrion, blah, blah, blah. And then she doesn't even, like, we don't even get to see her tell Tyrion that. I would have loved to have seen especially Tyrion's reaction to that. But we do get some really amazing scenes between Varys and Tyrion, and they're trying to decide what do they do next. They know in their hearts that Jon should be the king, but this entire time they've been fighting for Dany, and so what do we do? And one thing is making me question Varys a little bit. Tyrion says, well, if Jon is king, then what happens of Dany? Like, what do we do with her? And Varys just kind of gives him that look like, I don't know. And so I'm questioning his look there. Like he said that he's willing to do whatever he has to, personal or not, to protect this realm. So is he willing to kill Dany to have the realm have its true leader? And so, I mean, I thought I liked Varys, but if he's going to go down that road, I don't know. Now, before we talk about that last big moment, we got some really cool things just sorted out in tonight's episode, like Jaime and Brienne. We finally got them together. But in the end, Jaime ended up leaving for Cersei, so I'm very interested in seeing how that turns out. Bronn also showed up, and in typical Bronn fashion, Jaime and Tyrion give him Highgarden, or swear that he will have Highgarden if they defeat Cersei. And so Bronn's like, well, you know what? I'm going to go wait around and hide. If you guys actually win, then I'll come back for Highgarden. And part of me is just wanting, I don't want Bronn to get Highgarden anymore. I've loved Bronn for this entire series, and I still love Bronn, but I mean, he's selfish as hell. He shouldn't get Highgarden. I think they should just literally just screw him over in the end. We also learned that Gilly is pregnant, so there's that. And Tormund, he's going back to Castle Black, so I don't think it's going to be our last time seeing them. I do think we'll probably see them in episode 6 in the finale. I don't think we'll see them in episode 5. But what that shot told me, like when you see Sam there, you see Ghost and Tormund, is that Jon is leaving Winterfell going down south, and he's leaving who he is behind. When you see Tormund there, that represents his journeys beyond the wall and his relationship with Ygritte. And then you see Sam there, which obviously represents everything he's done at Castle Black. And Ghost, like he's a Stark, and he's leaving Winterfell. He's leaving who he is to go down south to fight for this Dragon Queen. And so that's also why I'm thinking, as much as it's so obvious that everyone wants Jon on the throne, he's saying he doesn't want it. And so I don't know if Jon's going to end up on the throne, or maybe he will, and that was his goodbye. I really love that shot, though. Like, to me, that's exactly what that represented. Also, rest in peace, Rhaegal. I was not expecting that. I was wondering what they were going to be doing with the last, what was it, 20, 25 episodes? And then super fast, they're riding above the water. Euron shows up, kills Rhaegal viciously. Missandei was captured, and that whole thing was weird. Like how they found out afterwards. They all knew she was captured, and they ended up back in King's Landing. Like, it was just 2 to 3 weeks passed by there. I wanted more from that boat battle. I thought that's what we were getting there, but the result, I guess I am happy with. They're back at Dragonstone now, which is what I expected. I think I talked about that in my episode 3 review. And that final moment, we had the mouth of Cersei walk out, and then obviously Tyrion walked out too. Tyrion's trying to reason with Qyburn, but he's not budging, which isn't really a surprise. And then we had Tyrion walk up to Cersei and be like, "You're not a monster. I've seen that. I know who you are. You love your children more than you love that throne, and I don't want to see you die." And I do think Cersei still loves her children more than she loves that throne. At least I think that's what we've always believed this entire time. But I'm wondering now if this entire time she's really just loved that throne, and she loves the power she gets from that throne. If anything, she's probably just more like, well, you're assuming I'm going to lose. I'm going to win. And so then we lose Missandei. She says Dracarys. Those are her last words, which I love. Her head gets cut off and she ends up falling over the ledge, and Dany is crying and Grey Worm's crying. And that last look that Dany has, wow, the tension is so high right now. We needed a moment like this. This is something that really cements Cersei as the ultimate villain. And I love how complex it is right now, because Cersei is obviously the main villain right now, but we also have Dany, who I don't think she should be the leader. And a lot of people are questioning that. They don't want her as the leader. And then we have Jon, who should be the leader, but doesn't want to be the leader. So we have this really, really complicated storyline going on right now. We have these moving parts everywhere. And that is what Game of Thrones is, right? That's what I've always loved about Game of Thrones. And if it wasn't for that final scene, that final 10 minutes there, I would have said this episode, yeah, we had some great moments in it, but it's being rushed way too fast. And I can't really keep up with what's going on. I go to the bathroom for a second, I come back, and everybody knows that Jon's Aegon Targaryen. What the hell? So overall, I really liked tonight's episode. I really did. I think the final scene definitely saved the episode for me. I'm not saying I hated everything else throughout the episode. I loved every moment of tonight's episode. Everything was paced out so well. I actually preferred tonight's episode over episode 3, The Battle of Winterfell, more because the Night King stuff just pissed me off, and it is sad that the Night King is just gone now, but I still preferred tonight's episode besides the rushed storytelling and obviously the off-screen reveals. Other than that, I'm excited for episode 5, but post your thoughts down below. What did you think of tonight's episode? Stay tuned for my episode 5 trailer breakdown coming out very soon, and I'll see you in the next one.